Myers, Seven Valleys Defense. It's a nice morning. I thought I'd sit outside. If you hear some vehicle traffic and stuff, I apologize. And we thought, let's do it outside today for a little bit of change. The thing I wanted to talk to you today about is ammunition. Now, I know you've probably read articles and, seen debates, and there's a lot of information about this round or that round. I'm going to just touch on that a little, but what I really want to talk about is whatever round you decide on, the ammunition that you're going to carry in a defensive firearm. It's important that you check it. It's important that those rounds function when you need them to. Okay, the last thing you want to do is spend a lot of time and effort on a gun. You get some training, you decide to carry, you get your carry permit, and then heaven forbid the worst happens. You're in that life or death scenario. Somebody's charging at you with a knife, or somebody's pulled a gun and they're going to shoot at you. The last thing you want to have happen is find out that you have defective ammunition, or the ammunition you've chosen is not effective for self-defense. One thing, I'm going to mention it, even though everybody's said it, you've probably heard it. The two loudest sounds you'll ever hear, one is a click when you thought you'd hear a bang, and that would be in that defensive situation I just talked about. The other one is a bang when you think you'll hear a click, and that would be accidental or negligent discharge. Both of those are not good. Definitely not good. So what am I talking about when I talk about checking your ammunition? Well, the first, when you select, I'm not going to get into the type of rounds, but I've seen people that, are using these type of rounds. This is a full metal jacket round nose bullet. Okay. You'll see people with it at the range. That's where it should be. I've also seen people shooting these at the range. What is this? This is a hollow point bullet. Okay, this is I call it defensive round. This is one that you use actually to defend yourself with. Why the difference? What is the difference? Well, with a round nose bullet like this, okay, when it hits, it's 9 millimeters. When it hits a person, it's going to go in at 9 millimeter size and pretty much stay at that size. It's not going to expand, and it's going to cause probably less damage to the person. Now remember, the reason you're defending yourself with this firearm is a life or death scenario. The person's shooting at you. You want to stop them immediately. Having to shoot a couple of rounds into the person and they don't stop and they keep shooting at you, and you probably get hit. It can make the difference between life and death. So that's one of the reasons. The other reason is a bad thing about using these rounds. These rounds are great for practice. They're less expensive. Okay. But one of the bad things about using this in defense, a second bad thing, besides, like I said, not being as effective, it's stopping the person who is trying to do you harm. And you shouldn't be shooting at the person if it's not a life or death, imminent death or injuries type of scenario. You need the round to work. The other thing is full metal jacket rounds will have more probability of going through the person you're shooting at. Now you think a home defense scenario, are there other people in the house? Could it go through the person and then a wall and maybe hit somebody in your family? That's the last thing you want to have happen. The whole point of this is you're trying to defend yourself and your family. So these rounds, if you live in New Jersey, this is all you're allowed to carry, but I'm not positive. I think every other state allows for these bullets, and the reason they allow for them is they understand that, like I said, the reduced probability that the round's going to go through the person you're trying to stop and injure somebody else. But even more important, that the round is going to expand and produce a larger wound cavity. We're not doing that to be cruel. Remember, you are trying to stop the threat as quickly as possible. So if you're the one who's quickest to get the gun on target and make effective hits on your adversary, that's what you want to do to save your life. This is going to increase your probability that you're going to be able to do that. Okay, so now I've talked about these two differences, but let me talk a little bit about checking the ammo. The quality and ammunition that you purchase commercially like this, the quality, excellent. Usually they are checked by the factory. However, remember, your life may depend. You know, the gun is important, but this little projectile is a 9mm. It's kind of small, but they are effective. 9mm can be very effective. But your life is really depending on this. So is it worth it to take a few minutes to check the ammunition before you put it in your gun that you're going to depend on to save your life? Well, is it worth checking your tires before you go on a long road trip? Do you want to take a look at your tires? Is the air pressure right? Are they bald? It might be worthwhile, because you may have a fantastic vehicle, but you know, if your tires blow out on the trip, you know, that's not a good thing on a trip. So same thing with this, although even more important, you're not going to be stuck by the side of the road. You may end up being shot, killed, or stabbed, or seriously injured because you weren't effective with stopping this. So training, the weapon and stuff like that's important. But let's take a few minutes to check it. What kind of things can you do to check? What kind of things should you be looking at? Well, first of all, look for any obvious defects. You know, is there like a kink in the brass or some damage that maybe looks like that? Take a look at the primer. Okay, the primer in the back should have no dimples. It shouldn't be a round that somebody already fired and it failed to fire. Let me show you one of these. Actually, this one, I don't know if you can see that, but there's actually a little dimple in there, and it's not centered. So I'm going to talk a little bit why I think that was. I picked this one up at the range I work at, and I have a suspicion why this one failed to fire, but this could be a round that's not effective. I mean, you could try to shoot it again and it may work at the range for practice, but certainly you wouldn't want to carry a round that has a dimple like that. You also want to make sure that the primer is flat. It should not protrude out of the case at all. If it does, that's going to hang up in your weapon. It could cause problems. It could cause it to not go off. Something else you might want to invest in is a ammo checker. This is an ammo checker for 9mm. What do you do with it? It's kind of for reloaders, but you can do it with your duty ammo too. I just dropped it in there. This is 9mm. Fits in there, nice and flush. Okay, so now I've checked this round. I'm pretty confident that this round is going to be good. However, the other thing I've done with my weapon is when I bought this, I didn't buy just enough to carry with me. I bought enough so that I could test fire it in the gun. Now, obviously, if I test fire this round, okay, I'll know it's effective, but now I don't have it when I'm carrying the gun. So I buy enough of the same type ammo. So I'm going to shoot it to see how it shoots in there, to see that it functions well. Sometimes the size and the angle of the round, especially on hollow points, can cause problems in semi-autos. And the only way you're going to know is to fire some. It's more expensive, but it's worth shooting a couple of these rounds in order to know that it's going to function effectively in your firearm. Another thing, just to be aware of, I'm going to show you these two, and I took a picture, so I'll probably put that in there. But you'll notice these two rounds, they look like they're a little different height. If you look closely at the where the crimp is, this one's crimped where it should be around the round. This round is perfect, good to go. This round has been compressed. Here's the thing, this round has been it's the first round that I put into a pistol that I own, and I know that I put it in there. You clear the weapon every time I take the round out and then chamber it again. It's gotten pushed down a little bit, so now it's pushed down to the point where this is not the round I'm going to carry in the gun in the chamber. I'm going to put one of the other ones in there, and this round is going to go into my box together with practice ammunition that I'm going to shoot at the range. If I shoot it at the range and it doesn't function properly, or it's not as accurate because the bullet's not seated fully in the chamber, it's not really a big deal for practice. But I'm going to retire this bullet, okay, because it's been, I don't clear the weapon that often, but it's been put in and out too many times. And so that's another reason you want to check. You want to look at that first round on a lot of guns. That's going to happen over time, okay? And that first round is the most critical. So that's something you want to be aware of. Let me talk even more basic than that. Make sure, this is important, very important. Make sure that you are using the right round for the right gun. Specifically, I've seen this actually more than once at the range. People who come in, they have 9 millimeters and 40 calibers, and they get the ammunition mixed up, because I'm not sure if you're aware of it. Most magazines that are hold 9 millimeter will hold 40 caliber too. The problem is some of them they won't fire at all, others will. Case in point, this case I like to call my 9 millimeter / 40 caliber case because this is what happens when you put a 9 millimeter round in a 40 caliber pistol. Okay, I didn't think it would shoot, but and many of them won't. You'll notice the primer had struck a little bit off center, but in this particular handgun, it was good enough that it could shoot the gun. It would fire, and what happened, you'll see the brass expanded under the pressure to fill the gap. The round expanded, so the 9 millimeter round went through the chamber without any problem. But the person was they were like, why did I had to manually work the slide every time after they shot? Why did that happen? And they called me over. And I looked at it, and I was really puzzled. I couldn't figure out why. I said, man, something's wrong with the gun. Let me see that. And when I looked at the rounds and the cases, I said, see. So now I know to look for that. Make sure you have the right ammunition. The good thing is if you try to put a 40 caliber round in a 9 millimeter, it's not going to it's not going to fire. It's not going to chamber. The round's not going to go in the chamber because 40 caliber larger than 9 millimeter. So in that case, it should be pretty obvious to you that you have a problem. But this problem might not be obvious. And again, in some handguns, you're going to get that click instead of a bang, and in others it's going to fire, but then you're going to have a malfunction. What equates to a malfunction, you're going to have to tap, rack the slide after every round. You might as well get a single shot pistol at that point, right? So it's just a couple of things I want to mention. Check the ammunition. Make sure that it's good before you carry it. I talked about the round that got compressed. I also want to talk about you should probably change out the ammunition that you're carrying in the weapon for defense. You probably should change it out. Excuse me a second. There's a truck. You should probably change it out every year at least. You should change it out. Why do I say that? Well, the enemy of ammunition is humidity, moisture, and sweat from your body, just dust from being in there and putting the weapon in and out of clothing. You need to clean the gun. You can't really clean the ammunition. So again, your life is depending on it. Probably rotate out what you carry every year. I would suggest. You don't have to. The ammunition will last. If you take care of it and it's stored in a dry, cool place, probably don't need to worry about it. But again, think about if you're carrying the gun in the heat and the cold, sweat, rain, depending what you're putting the gun through, the ammunition's going through the same thing. And with that, so you want to buy fresh ammunition, but you can store. I have ammunition that I've had stored for years, and I take it to the range and it functions perfectly. I have a neighbor, I was helping train his son, and he sent some rounds. He said, here, these will be like a ball and dummy drill, because I had them in my basement, and the rounds looked awful, and they were, about every third round would not fire. They were stored in a box in the basement. Moisture got into it. Proper type ammo can, a gun safe with a dehumidifier in there. You won't have any problem, and ammunition can store in those kind of conditions for years and be effective. However, if your life depends on it, is it worth spending a couple extra bucks to get some fresh ammunition every year? And if you stick with the same type round, the same manufacturer, the same weight, things like that, when you buy fresh ammunition next year, if you buy the same type, you don't have to do the shoot a bunch of rounds to function check it. Take the ammunition you've been carrying for a year, take those rounds that have been in and out of the chamber and gotten compressed, and take them to the range and practice. The rest of the time, obviously, ball ammunition will be just fine, and cheaper. You can buy it cheaper. Speaking of that, generally with ball ammunition, when we're not in a pandemic and there's not a huge demand and a shortage for ammunition, buying ammunition by the case online is probably the cheapest way to go. I've done that, and I luckily I have some from before the pandemic, because right now the prices are high and supply is low. Demand is high and supply is low, so the prices are up, and you may just have difficulty finding ammunition, practice ammunition, or duty ammunition. I've seen duty. You could probably get a box or so of duty. I'm sorry, I say duty ammunition because in the police department you carried that on duty. We'll call it carry ammunition. Rounds that you keep in the weapon to defend your life with. Those are things that you want to try to secure when you have a chance, and really ahead of time is better. At this time, you're just going to have to search and keep track and talk to other people. See where you get into. You go to gun range, shooting range, get to know other people. They probably can tell you where they were able to get ammunition, and you can share that information, and that can be helpful. So check your ammunition. Stay safe. Definitely get some training. I mentioned on this, I didn't really talk about it in here, but I talked about the hear a click when you think you hear a bang. You should know how to do how to clear your weapon. If you're carrying a semi-automatic, you need to know how to clear the weapon, and you need to practice that. So that's something you might want to get some training, get with a professional. Okay, so be safe. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel on YouTube, or follow my Seven Valleys Defense page on Facebook. And just again, check that ammunition, be safe, and I'll see you next time.